In parts 1 and 2 of this video essay, we've had a chance to watch Christian theologian and apologist William Lane Craig skewer himself on the problem of evil. In part 1, he tiptoed carefully around the logical problem of evil by forgetting to mention his God's attributes of all goodness and all lovingness. This allowed him to smugly declare that the logical problem of evil has been solved. In part 2, Craig began to examine the so-called probabilistic problem of evil, and we quickly learned that his arguments, in fact, gave greater weight to the existence of an all-evil God than to the one of his Christian theology. In part 3, Craig will continue to try and weasel his God out of the problem of evil.
Point number 3. Relative to the full scope of the evidence, God's existence is probable. Let me share just 3 pieces of evidence which I think render it probable that God exists. Number 1, God provides the best explanation of why the universe exists rather than nothing.
In the interest of time and attention spans, I've needed to pare down Craig's argument here quite a bit. In a nutshell, what he argues is Christian theology better matches up with modern Big Bang theory, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, than the atheists, the universe came out of nothing and created itself. But that's too big of a topic to tackle here. All I want to do now is surprise my own audience and agree, provisionally, with Craig. Yes, indeed, the universe was caused by a supernatural being, but it needn't have been created by Craig's God. Given the evidence he's produced so far, it's just as likely evil God caused the universe. Craig doesn't get to stick his God in the argument by default. We need more evidence of the Judeo-Christian God of the Old and New Testaments above and beyond the personal incredulity one gets when looking at the complexity of the universe's origins.
Secondly, God provides the best explanation for the complex order in the universe. During the last 20 to 30 years, scientists have been stunned by the discovery that the existence of intelligent life at this epoch in cosmic history depends upon an incomprehensibly delicate and complex balance of initial conditions simply given in the Big Bang itself.
Yes, the fine-tuning or anthropic argument. Craig is dragging out another worn-out so-called probability for God by arguing that the universe has exact conditions for intelligent life. He dazzles his audience by throwing up all these astronomically huge numbers to show that the universe has incredible conditions for life. Again, in the interest of time and to keep things focused, I will not directly tackle the fallacy of Craig's overall argument, other than to point out a few things. First of all, the same remarkable conditions he points to will also lead to the eventual explosion of our sun and the annihilation of the earth and all life on it. Also, except for a colossal cosmic accident, the intelligent humans he thinks are so cherished by the benevolent universe wouldn't be here. And I can dazzle an audience with a staggering thought as well. In his lecture, Craig gave an unimaginable figure for the probability of a universe coming into existence with the ability to support intelligent life. This high unlikelihood in Craig's estimation made it likely that a God exists. This God fine-tuned the universe just so it could support us. Yes, us. The small animal on this mediocre-sized planet orbiting an unremarkable sun in a solar system at the far outskirts of just one in a billion galaxies, each containing billions upon billions of other solar systems, other stars, and other planets. The distances between these galaxies too vast to even contemplate. Our own galaxy is like a grain of sand on a windswept beach. Our own galaxy is that tiny and insignificant in the universe, and yet Craig believes this entire affair, the immensity of the universe, was fine-tuned at the beginning just for us. On the cosmic stage, we are but an atom riding a drifting spot of lint, momentarily caught in a spotlight during Act 4 that no one else notices. But for Craig, the entire stage, the entire production was conceived, designed, and acted out just for us. We are latecomers to the scene. The universe has existed for something like 13 billion years before we ever flashed upon the stage, and it will go on for countless eons, long after the earth gets swallowed up by the sun, some 5 billion years from now. Yes, indeed, the universe was made just for us. This kind of thinking worked well when the Ptolemaic universe was in vogue, where the Earth was believed to be the center of the universe, but that thinking died with Copernicus and Galileo. But besides these observations missing from Craig's fawning over the anthropic principle, let me agree with him and observe that this is exactly in line with evil God's plans too. There's no reason to assume Craig's all-good, all-loving God yet. What he argues is just as valid
for the dark side.
And finally, number 3, God provides the best explanation for objective moral values in the world. In particular, it is evident that evil exists. And thus, paradoxically, evil actually serves to demonstrate the existence of God.
Wow. Let's see if Craig can pull himself out of the fire with that one. So far, he's merely arguing for evil God.
For if objective moral values cannot exist without God, and objective moral values do exist, as is evident from the reality of evil, then it follows logically and inescapably that God exists.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Slow down there, Craig. Who said moral values must exist because of God? If moral values like life is good, do not murder, do not steal, etc. are good values because God has decided they are good, then such a decision was arbitrary, and God could just as easily have decided evil and suffering is good, as evil God would have decided. However, if such morality truly is absolute, and God merely recognized the goodness of such values, then the values themselves stand above God and are independent of Him. So actually, objective, absolute moral values lend no evidence for God's existence. But what is that you say about God and evil?
Evil, as such, could not exist without God. The cumulative force of these arguments makes it very probable, I think, that God exists. So, in summary, if my 3 theses are correct, then evil does not render improbable the existence of the Christian God.
Where did Craig argue for the Christian God's existence? None of what he argued could establish any God whatsoever. But if we wanted to be generous and let him think he had successfully argued for some sort of supernatural force, it certainly wasn't the Christian God. Indeed, he's argued just as persuasively, if not more so, for evil God's existence.
And thus, the intellectual problem of evil, whether in its logical version or its probabilistic version, fails to overthrow the existence of God.
No, not exactly. The problem of evil merely points out that there may be a problem of good, too. Craig failed to show us that this God who created the universe is all good and all loving, as is promoted by his Christian theism. Indeed, all of his points argue equally, and I'd say more strongly, for an all-evil and all-hateful God. In fact, because his arguments are equally forceful for contradictory positions, we have evidence that those arguments are completely worthless. Craig has done nothing more than show how his philosophy is self-canceling. Bravo, Craig. Bravo.